All right then, so sausage rolls. Let's go over our 5 safety tips, which are wash your hands, keep your hands away from your nose and your mouth, cough and sneeze into your elbow, speak nicely about food, and keep your utensils pointing downwards, particularly if you've got someone that you're cooking with in your kitchen. You don't want to clout them in the head with your wooden spoon. So we always keep the knife, any sort of utensils pointing downwards. Now, sausage roll recipe. So the prep time says about 30 minutes, probably not that much, but it'll probably be around that time. Cook time is 20 minutes. Make 16 pieces. Doesn't serve 16, it makes 16 pieces. And it's a rookie recipe, which means it's nice and straightforward and you'll be able to follow it step by step. Now you'll see that there's a red arrow in there, and that the red arrows are for any sort of safety tips. So throughout the recipe, when there's a little bit of, when there's a step that you might need help with, I'm going to say, if you need help, ask someone to help you. So we don't want to do anything that's dangerous. We want to keep you nice and safe and enjoying your beautiful sausage rolls at the end. Now, just before I start, yep, that's good. We love live classes because real stuff happens. All right, so these are my raspberry and white chocolate muffins that I cooked in the earlier class. So yum. If you're in the Facebook group, which we've obviously got a little bit of an issue with, you'll see that I've already popped my pictures of the muffins up there already. Beautiful. Okay, let's read through our ingredients. So with the ingredients, when I read them out, all we're doing here is checking that we've got everything on the workbench. So we're not worried about the volumes yet. We'll get to that when we start cooking. So all we're doing here is making sure that we're calm, because we want calm cooking. Everything's on the workbench, and then once we've checked the equipment, then we'll get into the actual cooking. Beautiful. So you will need some mince. So I've got some beef mince. You can use any kind that your family uses. You'll need an egg. You'll need 2 eggs, actually. You'll need an egg for the actual filling, and you'll need an egg for glazing. Let me make sure I've got 2 eggs. Beautiful. You'll need some breadcrumbs. You'll need some cumin. You'll need some paprika. My paprika there. You'll need some salt. You'll need an apple. Now, I haven't grated my apple yet because it's just easier to do it. Otherwise, it's going to go brown. So you'll need puff pastry. Now, you don't have to use puff pastry. I think I saw in the chat before someone said that they were going to use a different kind of pastry. So you can definitely use short crust pastry, or you can even use phyllo pastry. If you're gluten-free, I'm gluten-free, so I will not be eating this, but my family loves this recipe. You can use gluten-free pastry. So lots of options. Beautiful. Now, in terms of the equipment, you're going to need measuring cups and spoons, a mixing bowl, a chopping board and a knife, a pastry brush. If you haven't got a pastry brush at home, that's super easily solved by just using a piece of paper towel. And I'll show you how to do that afterwards. A small bowl, a metal fork, or any kind of fork, doesn't matter if it's metal or not, a baking tray with baking paper, a large spoon, Disposable gloves, that's if you don't like touching raw meat. So lots of people in my classes don't like having their hands on the meat. So easily solved, either use disposable gloves or even some kitchen gloves. And you'll need a cooling rack. So my cooling rack threw itself on the floor just before, so I'm now picking it up. Excellent. Okay, if you are ready, pop a thumbs up in the chat. Beautiful. Love it. Great. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do our prep work first. So the first thing we're going to do is to preheat the oven to 190 degrees. 190 degrees. So that's fan forced if you've got it. And then we're going to line our baking tray with some baking paper. If you've got a silicone mat, if you use silicone mats at your place, then it will be the same. Like a special baking mat, you would know if you've got one. And what we do want to make sure is that your baking paper isn't going to flap over the top of your sausage rolls during the cooking. That has happened to me before. So I'm giving a little fold on the edges just to make sure that it sits in there nicely. Otherwise, you're not going to get that beautiful golden sausage roll. Beautiful. And then once you've done that, once you've got your tray lined with your baking paper, just move that out of the way so that you've got space. So what we try to do is with our kitchen bench, you can see that all of my ingredients are together and all of my equipment is together. So I've got a little sneaky bowl just there. And that just is all about being organised. So there's a term in cooking called mise en place, which is a French term, obviously, and that means put into position. And so that's what we do when we're cooking. That's why I read over everything before we start, because then now that you know that you've got everything on your workbench, then you can relax, knowing that everything's there. You're not going to have to run to the fridge, run to the cupboard. Everything is there. Beautiful. I would like you to grab your bowl that you're going to mix everything in. Grab your bowl and you're going to add 500 grams of your mince. Now, this is a great recipe in that you can very, very easily double it or even halve it. No, double it is much easier. So add your mince, 500 grams of mince. And if you bought it from the supermarket, it's probably already labelled as 500 grams. Adding that to our bowl. Then we're at step 3 in the recipe, and it says add the mince, the cumin. So the cumin is 2 teaspoons of cumin. Now, if you don't like strong flavours in your family, which is absolutely fine because you're the chef, you can make it how you want. If you like mild flavours, then you can always leave out the cumin. So 2 teaspoons of cumin, and it's ground cumin, not cumin seeds. Have a smell of it. I know I've already put it into the bowl, but have a smell of your cumin so that you get an understanding of what everything smells like as you add it. So 2 teaspoons of cumin and then 1 teaspoon of paprika. And there's all sorts of different kinds of paprika. You might call it paprika, And there's smoky paprika, sweet paprika, Hungarian paprika. Doesn't matter what kind you use. In the recipe, it does say smoked paprika, but it really doesn't matter. And we're going to add 1 teaspoon. Have a smell. Oh, yum. I call this the KFC spice because it's just got a great flavour to it. You can see that I've measured it again at the side, not over the top of the bowl. So 2 teaspoons of ground cumin, 1 teaspoon of ground smoked paprika, fabulous. 3/4 of a teaspoon of salt. And we're adding salt because this will bring out the flavours of our spice. Sprinkle it over the top. And when I'm cooking, I'll often have a sink full of warm soapy water so that I can pop things in and wash them quickly if I need to reuse them. So 3/4 of a teaspoon of sea salt. Then, beautiful, then 3 tablespoons of breadcrumbs. So again, make sure that you're using a flat measure. 3 am I making sure I've got it? Yep, 3 tablespoons of breadcrumbs. And you can use gluten-free breadcrumbs. I've used all sorts of things. I think you can use, I think I have used cooked quinoa before. If I've got a little bit of rice, sometimes I'll add rice because this will make our mixture a little bit more tender. So when we bite into our beautiful sausage rolls, they're going to be a little bit more softer. And that's the reason that we're adding our breadcrumbs. Fabulous. Then your apple. So if you've got a small apple, I try to find any sort of quick way of doing something. So I'm not peeling my apple. If you've already peeled your apple and grated it, great. That's great. But I'm just going to quickly grate my apple. This is probably going to be the longest part. And just be careful when you're grating, making sure that you keep your fingers away from the little blades. They're all little blades there. And we keep turning our apple. So I'm checking to make sure that my fingers are out of the way. And once you've finished, if you have a compost, pop that in your compost or into your regular bin. Don't wipe your fingers down this way because that's the blades. So turn it upside down. You can always use a spoon or a knife just to scrape that off. And I'm going to give it a good tap to get any of the inside.
Should I squeeze the juice out of the apple because it's like really wet?
Yeah, no, keep it in, because it's all about flavour. Good question. We can always add more breadcrumbs. Excellent. And once you've done that, just give me a thumbs up so I can see how you guys are traveling. Beautiful. Great. Excellent. Excellent. There's some thumb fighting over there. Love it. Great. All right then. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to crack our egg. And remember, I'll always crack an egg into a separate bowl or a little cup or something like that. And the reason I do that is it's easier to pull out any shell, or if there's a little bit of blood, it's easier to pull that out of a small cup than try to add it straight to the big bowl and then try to fish things out. So now every family has their own way of cracking eggs. This is the way I do it. So I just tap so that you've got a crack in the shell. And then I just crack it open and very slowly pull it apart. I don't bash it on the side of the bowl because I have on far too many occasions ended up with eggshell all across the tabletop. So tap and crack, and then I'm grabbing that little metal fork that we talked about before, and I'm going to give the egg a little whisk. Not long, like 15 seconds, just long enough for you to mix your white and your yolk together. We're not stirring it around in a circle. It's almost like our prongs are going up in the air like that. Beautiful. And then once you've done that, you're going to add that to your bowl. And just leave that little bowl near you. All right, so we've added our egg to the bowl. And before we start mixing it, what I do want to check is that you've got that your sheets of puff pastry are defrosted. So you can't assemble it. Oh, mine is too defrosted. So just check that. If your puff pastry is frozen, then we just want to take those two sheets, separate them off, leave them in the air so that they just come to room temperature, because you can't roll the sheet of puff pastry while it's frozen, otherwise it will break. And if you've got extra sheets of puff pastry and they're frozen, pop them in some cling wrap or a Ziploc bag and pop them back into the freezer. Once they're defrosted, you can't reuse them. So I've just popped mine to the side just to make sure that they're getting defrosted nicely. Beautiful. Now comes the fun bit. Well, it depends if you think it's fun. So I am going to start kneading. You can start with that metal fork if you want to and start breaking everything up if you want to do that. When I knead, unless I've got a really big piece of dough, I only knead with one hand. So I'm going to just start. So it's cold meat, cold apple, cold egg. So I completely understand if you don't like the texture. So I'm going to hold my bowl with one hand and I'm going to put my other hand into the mixture. And we're just going it's like you're a, what's that, tractor or whatever it is, and it's kind of got that big crane thing. So we're squeezing all of our mixture together. And the whole idea is that everything, all the ingredients are going to become incorporated. Beautiful. So really squeeze it together. And after a while, you'll start to see that the mixture becomes nice and smooth. And it's like the mixture picks up all the little extra ingredients that are floating at the side of the bowl. So it really starts to become nice and smooth. All right. So the reason I do one hand, and you can do two hands, but that's so that I can turn on the tap or grab a spoon or something with my clean hand. So have a look at your mixture. You're wanting it to be nice and smooth. If your mixture is a little bit wet still, someone was asking me before about your mixture, like adding the juice. So if your mixture is a little bit wet, try adding one more tablespoon of breadcrumbs. One more tablespoon of breadcrumbs. Because the whole idea of the breadcrumbs is that it absorbs any of the extra liquid from the meat, because as the meat cooks, it releases liquid, or the fat part of the meat. So we really do want our mixture to be nice and like smooth, and so we can mold it. Fabulous. So at the moment we're at step 4 of the recipe, but you'll find that the next few parts of the recipe are going to happen really quick. And once your mixture is nice and smooth, I'll just bring mine closer to the camera so you can see. Oops, Daisy. So that it's nice and congealed, not congealed, I don't know what the right word is. It's kind of smooth. Great. Once you've done that, give your hands a nice quick little wash. And then pop your bowl just to the side for the moment. And grab those 2 sheets of puff pastry, or whatever kind of pastry you've got. So wash your hands after you've mixed your meat or removed your disposable gloves. Okay, so you might want to watch what I do. I've still got the backing on my puff pastry. First thing I'm going to do, because my pastry is soft, I'm just going to fold it in half really loosely so that it shows, you can see in that camera where the halfway line is. So just fold it over. Doesn't have to be perfect unless you're an attention to detail person. And then what we're going to do is very slowly and carefully put a line down the middle of your pastry, keeping it intact. Doesn't matter if you do go through that pastry, through the plastic at the back, and cut both sheets of pastry. So fold it over. So you've got an idea of where halfway is. Beautiful. I'm going to pop this guy out of the way. Great. And then I'm turning it so that I've got a long section just here. All right, so we're at step 9. We're going to come back to whisking the egg yolk. I haven't forgotten it. We'll just do that at the end. So with your mixture, what I want you to do is roughly divide it into 4 sections. I'm just doing that with my knife. Doesn't have to be perfect because we will fix it as we go. But this will give us a bit of a rough idea. And so divide your mixture into 4 portions. And then I'm going to grab the first portion. So divide your mixture into 4 portions. Grab your first portion. Great. And then we're going to start spreading it out. You don't want it too wide. We want a channel there and a channel there. So just move your meat mixture around. Grab your gloves if you don't like to touch the meat. And you want to take your meat all the way to the end because no one wants to bite into a sausage roll that's only half there. Otherwise, it's a pastry roll, not a sausage roll. Beautiful. So you can see that I've got some section there, and kind of pat it down, move it around a bit so that it's nice and even. Doesn't have to be perfect. You can see mine is probably a little bit more skinnier at that end. And then we're going to do a big spin. We're going to grab another piece of meat and we're going to do exactly the same thing. So you can see that I'm just picking up pieces to make the roll even. Going all the way to the end. Beautiful. And once you've done that one, grab your other sheet of puff pastry. Got a little bit of plastic here. I'm going to peel that back. And then we're going to do our last 2 sheets. So do it, don't rush, just do it in your own time. Great. You can see everyone's super industrious here. And if you've got one, like this guy here is a bit bigger. So I think I've got too much on that one. I'm going to swap him down to this guy here. So once you've done 4, you can then get an idea of whether one has got way more filling than another one, and just play around with it. It's all going to work out in the end. It's really important, though, that you've got this section here and this section here. And then once you've done that, you can go wash your hands again. Lots of hand washing. Don't throw your knife into the sink yet, because you're going to need that in a moment. Fabulous. And when you have finished, you can separate your egg and your yolk. So there's a couple of ways you can do that. If you know how to do it, just go straight ahead and separate your egg and your yolk. So I'm going to tap and crack. And I'm going to put the whole egg. There we go, got a little bit of shell in it. The quick way to do this is to use a spoon to separate your yolk. That's the less messy and guaranteed that it's going to work, because if it doesn't work, it just slides back into the white again. So I'll show you what I did. I cracked the egg into my little bowl. I've taken a spoon and I'm just lifting up my egg yolk, taking it out. Beautiful. And we're ducking back to step 8 in the recipe. So it says whisk the extra egg yolk into a small bowl and mix in a good pinch of salt. All right, so we can do that. You won't need that egg white. What you can do with that is put it into scrambled eggs for breakfast tomorrow morning. I'm just going to quickly whisk my egg yolk. Add a little bit of salt. Beautiful. And then just pop that to the side. So whisk your egg yolk. We're on the homeward run now, guys. You're whisking your egg yolk, and then you're going to grab your little pastry brush. If you don't have a pastry brush, this is all that I use instead. Piece of paper towel, fold it into 4, fold it in half again, and you can use that as a little brush. That's the cheats way. And then I'm going to use this little egg yolk, and I'm going to paint the bottom edge. So this is going to be like glue. So I'm just painting that. Just on all 4 sections. So you can see on the bottom that I've painted. Beautiful. So we're still going to need this little egg yolk, so don't throw it out. And with the non-egg yolk side, I'm going to go over the top. I'll do it 4 times, so if you miss it the first time, that's okay. And then I'm going to roll it again so that the seam is pointing downwards. Amazing. Seam is pointing downwards, and then I'm just going to pop that right. What I am going to do is grab my knife. Now you might need help with this. So if you need someone to help you with the cutting, go and ask someone to help you. And this can be done a little bit later as well. So I'm going to take my knife. You can see that with my hand, I'm holding it nice and secure and nice and slowly. I'm not cutting it all the way to the middle. Down the middle first. This is going to let some steam out. And then each half, if you want like mini sausage rolls, you can do it into quarters. So half, and then each half in half again. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 16 pieces of sausage roll. Yum. So in half and then in half again. So you've ended up with 16 pieces. Beautiful. So you can see how I've done that. So mine are a little bit, they're still attached. So I haven't gone all the way to the bottom. It doesn't matter if you do go all the way to the bottom. But I like to crack mine open once they're cooked. Fabulous. And then the last thing you're going to do is to just baste the top of your sausage rolls with your egg wash. Now, if your egg wash starts to run out, and of course, all the eggs are going to be different, you can add a little bit of the egg white to loosen it up a bit. You probably need help with that. I'm just giving it a little mix around. And the reason we do this is so that our sausage rolls are going to be really beautiful and golden. We all want golden sausage rolls. Beautiful. So either use your pastry brush or use your paper towel, whatever you're using. And now that I'm thinking about it, if you can either turn your tray so that the little bowl or cup is nice and close to you, because I was just stretching across there. So it's all about you being the boss of the tools. And the closer that you are to everything, the less spillage that you're going to make. So I added a little bit of egg white to my egg yolk, for those that missed that. And just have a good look and see if there's any part that you have missed. You might not use all of it. Beautiful. All right. And then you might, if you've got some sesame seeds, you can sprinkle some sesame seeds on top. Now, you're not going to be able to see my sesame seeds, so I'm using poppy seeds just for so that you can see what I'm doing. I've got sesame seeds there, but they're going to be invisible. And if you don't like anything on top, you don't have to have anything. I'm putting a mixture of sesame and poppy. You might not need 3 tablespoons. I think you'll probably only need about 1 tablespoon. Beautiful. And it doesn't matter if they fall off the sausage roll. And you can use as much or as little as you want. Great. If you've got some black sesame seeds, that might look nice as well. Right. And it is ready to pop into the oven. So now if you want to have these for dinner, my suggestion is that you cover the tray with some cling wrap, pop it into the fridge for 2 reasons. So that the sausage rolls don't pick up the flavour of your fridge. Sometimes fridges have a funny smell to them. And anything else that's in your fridge doesn't pick up the flavour of your sausage rolls. Leave it in there and then just follow the directions from there on. Now, if you're going to pop yours into the oven right now, you can grab your oven mitts. If you are not confident in putting a tray into a hot oven, this is where you go and ask someone at home for help. You can see that I've got an arrow down the bottom of the recipe there. And the recipe, we're going to bake our tray for 15 to 20 minutes. And I say that because it's going to depend on how long it takes to get golden. Put your timer on for 15 minutes and then ask someone at home to help you take it out and test that your beautiful sausage rolls are ready. The way that you test is just opening up one, chopping it down the middle and seeing if it's cooked. If it's cooked, great. If it's not, pop it back into the oven for another 5 minutes. I always put my timer on for the shortest time. So 15 minutes and then check. Beautiful. Then after that, after they're cooked, after your 15, 20 minutes, take them out, pop them onto a cooling rack using oven mitts, of course. Beautiful. And then the last part of every recipe is pack, wash, wipe. So we pack away all of the ingredients that we've used with the lids on it. And then that's the pack part. We wash up any utensils that we've used, whether you're washing it up in the sink or whether you're popping it into the dishwasher, depending on your family and what you do. So pack away everything, wash up, and the last thing that you do is you wipe down your bench. So you wipe away, you've got poppy seeds and meat drips and all the rest of it. So that's the last part of your recipe. Pack, wash, wipe. Beautiful. Now, we're going to get the link to the Facebook group sorted. I'm not sure what's happening there, but I'll get that sorted. If you're part of April Bake School, there's a Facebook link in that first, I think it's in the second lesson. And I'll also put the link into today's portal as well. Take a photo of your finished product. I love seeing what you've made, and everyone else wants to see what you've made as well. So take a picture of the food, not of faces, and beautiful. All right, fantastic. Jacqueline, can you just put my my face back? Beautiful. All right, fantastic. All right, guys, if you've got any more questions, feel free to hang around. Otherwise, pack, wash, wipe, and we'll see you next time we cook together. Bye.